Good morning. Thank you again for joining me for another Daily Devotions with Pastor Joe. I'd just like to encourage you right from the start. If you like what you see, give my video a like. Comment down below if you have any thoughts, questions, concerns, ideas, tips, pointers, whatever. Share this video with a friend who you think you would be interested in this kind of content. Let's get into Joshua chapter 24. This will be, I believe, our last time in Joshua for the Daily Devotions, but we'll see next week whether we get here or into the Judges. But this is the final words that Joshua really had to say, and it's the final time between the people, the children of Israel, and Joshua, making an affirmation, a promise, and just trying to do to make their decisions about what they're going to be doing in the future going forward. They had been commanded to do so many things by the Lord. We're not going to look into it, but they ended up not accomplishing all of the things that they had promised God they would do. And there's a lot of history in Israel after this that we're not going to be covering, but just Joshua's life here. So Joshua 24:14 says, "Now therefore fear the Lord and serve him in sincerity and in truth. And put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the flood and in Egypt, and serve ye the Lord. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." And the people answered and said, "God forbid that we should forsake the Lord and serve other gods. For the Lord our God, he it is that brought us up and our fathers out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage, and which did those great signs in our sight, and preserved us in all the way there wherein we went, and among all the people through whom we passed." And it's a great little comment here when he says, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." You see that all over posters, all over signs, all over wooden blocks that are carved or burnt in, and just pictures all over people's homes and bumper stickers. It's a great comment. It's a great thing to think about. It's a great thing to want, but it's an even better thing to do. And so Joshua said, "As for me and my house, we're going to be serving the Lord." You can go out there and you can serve whatever God you want to serve. You can serve Baal and Ashtaroth. You can serve all of these other gods that the Egyptians served. You can serve whoever you want to. In fact, today we would say you can serve yourself. You can serve the gods of technology, and you can serve the gods of sports. You can serve whoever you want, you know. As for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord, the one who accomplished everything, the one who was able to overcome all of the adversity, the one who was closest to God, knew God the best, had helped them to accomplish so many great things in these battles. Joshua said, "We are going to serve the Lord." And he told them how to serve him. Serve in sincerity, serve in truth. Use a sincere faith and honest faith and really serve him. Don't be a hypocrite about it. Don't pretend to serve him and not serve him. He doesn't want that. He doesn't care for that. You can see over and over again throughout Joshua's life and throughout the Bible that the people who are not serving God and meaning to serve him end up losing out. We know Achan, who had made the mistake of disobeying God's command, ended up meeting a very horrible end to his life, being stoned with his family. And so don't wind up like that, but serve the Lord in sincerity and in truth. And then he says down here, the people answered him and said, "God forbid." They're saying there should be no hope of it. We don't want that ever to happen. It should not happen. No, we want to serve the Lord. We don't want to forsake the Lord to serve other gods. And then they bring up an important point. The Lord is our God. He is the one that brought us out of our fathers out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage, slavery, servitude, and which did those great signs in our sight, preserved us in all the way therein we went, and among all the people through whom we passed. So they're talking about a God who had done great things for them. And they'll never turn from a God who did great things for them. I don't know how they did in their generation. They didn't serve him fully because they didn't end up going forward and defeating all of the enemies that they were supposed to. They left a lot of nations alone, especially as Elizabeth and I were reading over this. They left a lot of land that ended up being a lot of problems untouched. The Canaanites ended up being some of the big problems for them that they left behind, the ones that they didn't take care of. The Philistines were a result of, if they would have just taken care of it, David wouldn't have had his problems, Saul wouldn't have had his problems, all of the kings wouldn't have had their problems after that with the Philistines, but they didn't. They didn't take care of it. Didn't take care of the problem. So, yes, they wanted to serve God. Yes, they had a lot of reason to serve God, and that's something we want to talk about and think about. What has God done in your life that means I won't turn back? I won't go back to the old life. I won't go back to the old ways, to the things of the world. No longer does sports, money, fame, fortune, people, none of that matters to me anymore as much as God. What is it that God has done in your life that has made such a difference? For one, he has brought you out of the pit, out of the house of bondage. He's brought you and I out of the slavery of sin, out of the old Egypt. A lot of preachers will look at this and say, well, Egypt is the life of sin, and Canaan is the life of holiness, and the wilderness is that transitioning between the two. And well, if you're in Canaan now, if you're beyond all of that and out of sin, God has brought you out of sin, out of the bondage, out of that slavery and the chains of sin that bind you. And he did all those great signs in our sight. God's done a lot of things in my life that have proven to me over and over again that he still cares and still does miracles and still works wonders in this world today. I could tell you about person after person who's been in my life in a way that just has surprised and amazed me. At one point, I was going through a bit of a struggle, and I honestly needed a lot of prayer from people, but I was a young kid. I was 17, maybe 16, 17, and God was dealing with me about a lot of things. And then one evening, I prayed about what was going on. God helped me through the situation. Won't get into all those details, but the next Sunday, somebody from our church said, "Hey, do you know this person?" I said, "No." They said, "Well, they seem to know you even though they don't know you." I said, "Okay." They said, "God impressed on our heart, the other night." This lady said, "God impressed on our heart on this night to pray for somebody at such a school that I was in, and that they really needed this prayer, and his name is Joe Ball." And they'd never known me. I'd never known them. To this day, I don't think I do know them. And yet God impressed my name, my school, and the night that I needed the prayer the most on this person's heart, and they prayed for me. That's one of those great signs, one of those great things that God has done in my life that have affirmed to me that God really cares and he's really there. So I'm sure God has done a lot of those things in your life, and because of that, like Joshua, I want to urge you to serve God in sincerity and in truth. A lot of people, they say, well, I'm sincere about it. I might not accomplish it, but I'm sincere about it. But sincerity means nothing without truth, without honest, true worship. So worship God in sincerity and in truth. Worship him the way he needs to be. Serve him the way that he deserves to be served. And I know you're not going to regret it. I know that after years of serving him myself, that I don't regret it. I don't regret a minute of it. What I do regret is the time that I didn't serve him the way I should. And I tell you right now, you will not regret serving the Lord. There will be days in the future where you've spent 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, all of your life, and you've served the Lord, and you'll turn back and say, I don't think a minute of that was wasted. I've been serving God. Don't say you're standing in the way, but say you're serving in the way, because that's where you really should be, is serving the Lord. So once again this morning, God bless. I hope you have a great day in the Lord, and I'll see you tomorrow on another daily devotion with Pastor Joe. Stay encouraged. God is on your side as long as you're on his.